himself and his team opportunities. Injury plagued, but moving on, Shanahan continuing to effort Super Bowl #1. Your NFC divisional matchups are set. The Rams will take a trip to the Bears, the 49ers to the Seahawks, as the NFC West is well represented. One from the North remaining. Who will represent the NFC? We get one step closer in a week. Back in studio with the fellas to take a look at some of those matchups. Jonathan Jones, Bryant McFadden, Patrick Peterson, and fellas, San Francisco, Seattle is where we will start. San Francisco taking that trip to Seattle for the third act of that story, Mac, this season.
Yep.
We saw how Week 1 played out. We saw how Week 18 played out. You probably look to that second data point as more of a realistic representation of who these teams are right now. I'll just ask it plain and simple.
Yeah.
How does San Francisco pull this off?
They got to find a way to be more efficient on the offensive side. And I know we feel like we should probably identify the most recent game as the best way to analyze what potentially could happen in this upcoming playoff game. But I oftentimes like to look at the first meeting as well, because these two teams, they split the series 1-1, right? And in the midst of those two games, the San Francisco 49ers as a whole offensively, they only scored 20 points in 2 games. So it's something about Mike McDonald and his defense. They've had success against Brock Purdy and CMC and as a whole, their entire offense. Now, if you look at the most recent game, right, what we saw, Brock Purdy, he was bottled up. They harassed him. They made things difficult for him. He was never comfortable in the pocket. He only threw for 127 yards in the second meeting. CMC only had 59 yards of total offense. Total offense. And we know what type of offensive weapon he can be. Mm-hmm. For them to bottle CMC up like that for 4 quarters, they had a game plan that they executed perfectly against him that only led to 3 points being scored by San Francisco. Now, Sam Darnold didn't need to do a lot, right? He made timely plays here or there. It was about the running game. As a team, they had 180 yards rushing. Kenneth Walker walked for 97. Mm-hmm. So they had the ground and pound game going, along with making sure they neutralized and not allow CMC to become the superhero. So that's the concern that I have for me, Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. Can you get more production from your offense? Because you have to be able to score more than 3 points to beat Seattle, I believe, on the road.
For Seattle, respect to Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and that two-headed monster in the backfield. But this is a defense-first outfit, and quite a defensive performance it's been all season long. What do they hang their hat on, the Seattle defense?
Getting to the quarterback, the guys up front, I believe they're number one as far as pressuring the quarterback and getting to the quarterback at a high clip. And they have guys in the back end that can get to the ball and be ball hawks. Mm-hmm. So when you have that kind of combination, you get the result that the Seattle Seahawks defense have been providing. They not only can take the ball away, but
except, B-Mac, to your point, a guy who typically combines for 100-plus scrimmage yards in a game got half that against the Seattle Seahawks. I think they went 2 for 9 on third down. They couldn't continue drives. They couldn't stay out there on the field. And then Sam Darnold didn't turn the football over. He didn't turn into a pumpkin. If you were betting on Seattle giving you the football, making mistakes, they didn't do that in this past game. So what is going to be the plan? Well, you hope that you can fool, if you will, or trick Seattle into making some of those mistakes. You need Christian McCaffrey to be the Christian McCaffrey that we have seen most every other Sunday except for when he plays the Seattle Seahawks. Those things you need, but then the rest. The fact that the Seattle Seahawks played on a Saturday against the Niners and then didn't play for a week, and this game probably going to be on a Sunday. We'll see when the schedule ultimately is finalized. They're going to have 2 weeks to rest. Yeah. And the Niners are going to be coming off basically 7.5 days of rest, and they're going to be without George Kittle, who confirmed did tear his Achilles. This is going to be an issue for the Niners, especially since we just saw this game 2 weeks ago, and the Niners are a lesser team today than they were then.
You better trust your silent count. You better like the play you came out of the huddle with, as they will face not just that defense, not just that offense, but the 12s there in Seattle. Our other divisional round matchup will go down on the lakefront in Chicago with the Chicago Bears at open, a 4.5-point home underdog to a high potent LA offense. And I think maybe you could say that about both sides of this matchup, Mac, is that the offense poses a problem for each of these two defense. What do you see when you put Chicago and LA together?
Well, first and foremost, you might want to take the over. I think defense will be optionable in this game because what we've seen. And I respect both offenses. So in terms of the question, Joe, which offense can be more efficient the longest and protect the football. Because I look at the running game from either side, the eye candy they present, the misdirection they present is going to be an issue for either defense. I look at the quarterback play from either side, right? We saw Matthew Stafford get right back in the good graces of throwing the football. The Iceman, all right? Caleb Williams, he's been phenomenal, oddly playing some of his best football in the fourth quarter. And that's another thing I want to direct and look at. Chicago, y'all can't wait until the fourth quarter to arrive to the party. No, get there in the first quarter, right? So you can survey the room and work the room and see what's going on. Right now, what Chicago has been doing has been allowing teams to get out of the blocks first. Once upon a time, well, eventually, you will race Usain Bolt. And if you want to get out of the blocks first, you won't be able to run them down, right? They've been able to run their opposing opponents down as of late. In playoff football, it gets harder. So you don't want to allow Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay to get out of the blocks first because we might not see the heroics that we've seen in fourth quarter for Chicago. So being able to play for 4 quarters and offensively, because I think both quarterbacks will have success, but who plays the smartest the longest?
It's interesting that you put it that way because this is also an LA team over the last month and a half that has done a great job of getting out of the gates but having trouble finishing football teams, letting teams back into the game. It sets up for another just heart pounder that I don't know if I'm ready for here as a lifelong supporter of those Chicago Bears. But it is a worry point. The MVP, perhaps, in Matthew Stafford facing a defense that is having trouble pressuring the quarterback and the back end's dinged up as well. When you look at Chicago and the different ways that they've found to win football games, because I know that it's happening inside the 2-minute warning, but the run game sometimes, Caleb at others, they're kind of comfortable going to any part of that playbook right now. What is your biggest concern for both sides in this one?
I'll tell you this, I actually trust the Chicago Bears more in this moment because we have seen it time and again with the Chicago Bears meeting the moment with lesser teams, with what you may argue at some point in the season, better teams. What I have seen from the LA Rams this past month has not really impressed me, at least the last 3.5 weeks. Ever since that fourth quarter against the Seattle Seahawks, things haven't been great for the LA Rams, right? They wound up losing to the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're very happy that they no longer have to play teams along Interstate 85 in Carolina and Atlanta. Matthew Stafford, I know everyone remembers that great final drive against Carolina to win the game. It wasn't necessarily all that pretty before that for Stafford. And while the Chicago Bears defense, yes, they've taken some hits. TJ Edwards obviously going to be out of this game. You do have a very opportunistic defense, a defense that loves to take the football away. And the last couple of weeks, Matthew Stafford has been prone to giving the football away. And then lastly, when I look at the quarterback matchup, and yes, Matthew Stafford very well may win the MVP and certainly had play that was worthy of it. But Caleb Williams has been playing like the better quarterback more consistently, at least down the stretch. At least down the stretch. Okay, and we're talking about a shootout. The thing that I just witnessed a couple of weeks ago was a shootout between the Chicago Bears and an NFC West team in the San Francisco 49ers. And I saw the Chicago Bears figure out how to win that game, right? So that...
You don't have to sell me.
Well...
but I'm listening.
We all watch it together, Jaden.
If you could get Caleb's secret stuff for 4 quarters, it's going to be a tough group in Chicago to figure out for this LA defense. I also want to factor in, Pat, a point that you, I believe, made a few weeks ago, sitting on the side set over there talking about the path for the LA Rams when it was this juggernaut. But if you could get them outside, if you could get them in the elements, if you could put them somewhere where this offense isn't as comfortable, Chicago in January is certainly one of those places. What do you think that effect is going to be on this football game?
It's going to come down to the running game for the Los Angeles Rams. We know what the Chicago Bears can do in the running game. I believe the elements will play a big factor in the passing game. We know that the Los Angeles Rams love to lean on the shoulder and the arm of Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and all the pass catchers as tight ends that they have. But the Windy City is real, especially this time of the year. So I believe they're going to have to lean on their running game to alleviate some of that pressure that may arrive on Matthew Stafford's lap.
Niners and Seahawks, Rams and Bears. It's going to be a fun week in the divisional round of the NFC. Those matchups now set following Sunday action here in the NFL. Taking a look at your odds to win the NFC. Longest number belongs to those Niners if you believe, well, gold is their business. 9-1 money there. Plus 120, the shortest odds, the Seattle Seahawks, fresh off all that rest. Again, who was an answer in the midst of a couple of those late drives, making plays, and it keeps a streak alive. Longest win streaks in playoff openers. San Francisco now 9 in a row. And we are joined now by a pillar of our coverage on the NFL on CBS. Evan Washburn joining us live from the link. And Evan, this was quite a ball game. The spirit of the San Francisco 49ers tested throughout this entire season. And I go back to that emotional moment you just had with Kyle Juszczyk. You hear the emotion in his voice. In your eyes, how were the Niners able to absorb that moment and move forward?
Joe, I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I mean, just going into this game, when you had the list of all pros that they had lost over the course of the season, and then in this stadium, even in a place that you know well that can be pretty hostile, they were back by the Achilles injury for George Kittle, applauding him as he made his way into the locker room. And it affected this team, but I think what it did is it brought them even closer together. And you felt that in the postgame, not just with Kyle, but just seeing everybody part of this San Francisco organization recognizing what they had done here, something I don't think many of us thought was possible, especially I would say in the third quarter. It just felt like even though Philadelphia wasn't necessarily putting points on the board, they were controlling time of possession for a lot of this game. But I really do think that Juwan Jennings play, you actually think back to the Super Bowl in Vegas. They don't win that game, but he has a similar play, and he seems to be a lightning rod and a spark plug for this team, and he's what they need, and it's taken all of them right now.
Yeah, I can't think of a player that embodies the spirit of this Niners team more than George Kittle. His presence will still be there, just not on field after that unfortunate injury. On the other side of this one, Evan, it's a Philly team that we were waiting to flip that switch, and they weren't able to get the offense to turn the engine over at any point this year, and it really spells disaster in this one. What was their limiting factor in this 60 minutes?
I think all season long it's been an inability to consistently count on the run game. And I think a lot of us, myself included, Joe, thought that Lane Johnson was going to be able to play in this game. And he makes a huge difference for what they can do across that offensive line and make holes. And Saquon had it going early, but Jalen wasn't a big factor in the run game. He hasn't been all season. And it's just a disjointed offense right now that clearly has a bunch of talent and guys that want to make plays and can make plays. But in these playoff games against teams like San Francisco, even with as many guys as they were without in this game, you have to play to a higher standard. And they just hadn't been able to consistently do that all season. So it was probably naive of us to think that they could just flip that switch. But there were a number of plays in this game. I mean, even late, the drops that I think they're going to be haunted by when they look back on what was a winnable game for Philadelphia, a team that was looking to repeat as Super Bowl champs.
And if my ears served me correctly, it felt like the requisite Philly goodbye for this team as they left the field. I want to ask you a question that you asked Kyle Juszczyk. It's Act 3 of San Francisco, Seattle. We saw Act 1 to start the season. We see the bookend at year's end where they stifle this San Francisco offense. What do you see when we look at them for a third time?
It's all unfold. The momentum is real. That's going to be a fun one next week.
All right, I will stand between Evan Washburn and the relief of heat no longer. Evan, we appreciate you stopping by here on CBS Sports HQ, pal.
You got it, Chet. Thanks.
All right, so the season comes to a close for Philly on home turf. Evan Washburn detailing the latest from the link as we take a look at the Niners in the divisional round. What will they be in this latest meeting with the Seattle Seahawks? Well, quick turnaround, get ready, and see who will settle the score when rubber meets road in the Pacific Northwest.